My name is Megan Ellsworth here at CoatingsCoffeeShop.com, and we're talking about fluid applied roof systems as membranes. Are they the new membrane? And this is brought to you by Western Colloid. Thank you so much, Western Colloid. And Greg, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, Greg Hlavaty, president at Western Colloid. We're a manufacturer of roof coatings and fluid applied reinforced roof systems. Um, been in the industry and been manufacturing our products since the late 1960s. So we've been around a while, still privately owned, still um, going to market in the same way we have for the last 50 years. So um, we have developed some thoughts, some systems, and some uh, standards that we often like to share with the industry. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and this is a really, really fun topic we're diving into today. So I would love to start out with why do you think fluid applied roof systems are gaining traction in today's roofing market?
well, I think there's probably multiple reasons. One of them is that the convergence of the entire, not just the roofing industry, but the entire um, the United States, other countries are doing things in a more either economical or sustainable or energy efficient. All these things are coming together at the right time, and coatings are a great way to take advantage of that. It's been done for many years. We've changed very little about what we've done in the past 40, 50 years. We made a few changes, but it's just something that its time has come. It fits a lot of the hot buttons, like I said, sustainability, lack of landfill usage, cutting back on energy in the manufacturing side. There's a lot of reasons for it, and we just happen to be in the right place at a good time in I think in history. So, but it's becoming more of a mainstream as opposed to a. For many years, it was always considered a band-aid. Let's see if we can get by for a few more years. We'll put a coating on it. Um, I once made a comment when I was president at the RCMA, talking to all my fellow members. We had some great members, that competitors, but but fellows in the
Yeah, friends.
manufacturing industry. And I remember saying a few years back, um, I was pointing out at the audience. I says, you're all coating manufacturers. Um, uh, I realize that, but you're membrane manufacturers, and you just don't know it yet. And that's because the same technologies that's used in the coating industry, with the additions of reinforcements or tougher specifications or additional gallonages. There's different ways of going about it, but they can take the place of a full-fledged roofing membrane, whether you're talking about modified bitumen, single ply, uh, uh, spray foam, many of the other things, and they're all great. They're all great technologies. They're not taking the place of them, but they're moving up to become an equal in the industry, as opposed to a stepchild that is used only as a last resort.
Yeah.
So, and in doing that, it fills some of these uh, spaces that are out there in the industry that are growing. Like I said, sustainability, um, landfill, cutting down on landfill usage where you can. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to tear a roof off and put a new membrane on. Sometimes you have to. If you're building a new construction, you're designing it with some great uh, um, technologies, in whether it's TPO, EPDM, PVC, modified bitumen. They all have great systems, and
Right.
especially in the new construction. But we're talking about uh, um, saving some of our structures or
Yep.
parts of our structures. We throw away our roofs every 15 years
Yeah.
at the landfill. But when a building owner needs a new wall done, they paint a wall, they put new flooring down, they put new carpeting down, but we throw our roofs away, and that's becoming less and less desirable. And
Yep.
people who are already in the coating industry, with the addition of some technology or additions to the systems, can make an equal lifespan of a coating system into a membrane of any membrane out there, um, even though it's still a maintenance to an existing roof system. And
Yep.
that's always been the pushback from the manufacturers, and I'll diffuse that right now. It's granted, we most of our systems, when they're tested and rated, they're tested and rated as maintenance and repair, and that's by and large true. However, its life expectancy doesn't mean that it's less than an equal membrane. Just because it's rated as a maintenance repair doesn't mean, oh, it's only going to last 3 or 4 or 5 years. Most of our systems now are in the 10 to 20-year lifespan,
Yeah.
which is the same lifespan of a brand new um, roof membrane that's put on new
Yep.
construction. So, I think we're stepping into a place that we deserve. And I'm not talking about just Western Colloid, I'm talking about our industry, and that's the fluid applied systems. We go about it with reinforcements, multi-layer, seamless systems, which most coating systems are. Um, some systems are sold as membranes that aren't really membranes, and that's true. Well, we get pushback regularly from roofing consultants that you say, hey, no, we've been there, done that. We've tried some coatings, they peeled, they ponding water, they did this and that. They're not really a membrane, and uh, um, I'm sure that's true. And I'm sure 40 years ago, we could have said the same thing about fiberglass reinforcements and built up roofing, and in the 90s, modified bitumen torch-ons, and all of them have had their places and fails and all that. But it doesn't mean that the good ones aren't up to the standards that can perform for a long period of time. So,
Yeah.
uh,
That's a pretty revolutionary perspective that you're sharing here. And so, Greg, to keep moving, how does thinking of fluid applied systems as membranes change this conversation in roofing?
well, part of it, and a big part of it, is how we as manufacturers go to our marketplace, both through the contractor and to the building owner, but primarily through the contractor, because there is one big difference in our world, or at least I know my world, and that is, as a manufacturer, uh, or let me compare it to what you would call a more mainstream roofing manufacturer of a modified bitumen or a single ply membrane, whether it's PVC, TPO, EPDM. I don't know if I'm exactly in the percentages, but I'm going to throw something out there that's in the world.
Yeah.
80% of that roof membrane is manufactured in that facility. It's calendared, or as they call it in single ply, or on a modified bitumen manufacturing run to specific standards, thicknesses, toughness. All those things are done in the factory, and then it's out in the field, and now you count on your contractor to do that next 15 to 20% of the application, which is seaming it, adhering it properly, whether it's with an adhesive or with a fastener. All those things need to be done right for it to be a good roof. But the comfort level that you have when you're using those systems is that, okay, this roll is the same as that roll, is the same as the next roll. All I got to do is get it seamed together right. And one of the challenges we have in our systems in this industry is that we're probably only maybe 50% of the manufacturing process. The other 50% relies on our audience, which, or if you're a contractor, we really rely on you more because you're really putting all these components that we built in the factory, the liquids, the other parts of the assembly, you've got
Exactly.
to assemble them in place.
Yep.
So it makes our responsibility, I think, a little tougher, a little stronger. That's why we, in my company, we expend a good portion of our money on field technical training. We have crews that go out and work, not just show you how to butter a pipe, but actually work in production anywhere from a day to a week with crews, showing them how to put it down and do that kind of stuff. Because we rely on those contractors to do that other 50% of the assembly of our membrane that's on that roof. And so we have a responsibility, I believe, to the technical side, both in testing, whether you're using FM like we do, we have a lot of FM tested systems and UL to give the consultants comfort level, but also in the field testing and that they're putting it down right, because it is much easier to screw up one of our jobs if it's not applied right than it is, if you missed a seam on a single ply membrane, you can go back and re-weld that seam. You can catch it,
Yeah.
see your issues. You can, it's plain to see if you're doing a mechanical attachment of something, if the pattern, the screw and plate or nailing pattern is proper. All that, can be seen and fixed. In our case, we put down multiple layers and we rely on each of those layers to be done right. So there is some responsibility on our part, and that responsibility is training, field training, and that. And we hope to do more with the NRCA through the RCMA and a few of the others that I know in the Southern California here. They're starting to do contractor training and that type of stuff in general, not specific for specific brands like mine, Western Colloid, but in general. So it is a little tougher because every one of us has our own specifications. Now I put down 2.5 gallons. Well, we think it takes 3.5. Well, we like to see 4. We like to see 1. Ours is tougher. Ours has high tensile. Ours has high build. We all have a lot of different things that we make, and we put a lot of buzzwords into our coatings. But the ultimate is that we get the right amount on for the years that we expect it to last, and that the contractor is our partner in it. We look at that contractor not as a 2-year, hey, my 2 years are up, because most states ask contractors to at least stand behind their work for 2 years. And then we carry a warranty, whether it's 5, 10, 15, or 20. And then they say, oh, that's the manufacturer's problem. Well, we don't look at it that way. We look at it as the contractor. We're not asking them to pay for everything if something happens, but we want them to be our partner. They're putting it down. We want them to be our long-term partner in those membranes that we put on, that they're helping us put on, and making that building owner happy. And when we do it right, we get building after building after building after building. The other part of it is the sustainability, and that's a tough thing for some of the new construction type roofing and re-roofing to do. These systems, when they're done right, especially the type we do, we do a little bit of silicone. We do a few disciplines. Most of ours are either acrylic surfaced with asphalt emulsion bases, polyester reinforcements, or all acrylic systems, but those are nicely maintainable. We have many roofs that have gone 10 to 15 years and been recoated, and I mean millions of feet that are in the second, and some of them in the third. A good example, we just finished 2 months ago a recoat of a fairly lightweight system we did on a 10,500 square roofing, 150,000 square foot, 1,500,000 square foot roof that was done 17 years ago by one of our contractors. And this August, it got a recoat after 17 years of 3 gallons more of acrylic, a clean, a recoat, reinforcement in low and ponding areas, which is another red flag. I'll try to diffuse here in a minute, of things that work and don't work in ponding and what you have to do for ponding, because that's always a big pushback in coatings. But
Right.
anyway, a great example of a 10,500 square roof with a lightweight but reinforced roof system with acrylic surfacing. Went 17 years, and the only reason they recoated it then, they said it's still working fine, working
Yeah.
beautifully, but they got a new tenant, which is Mercedes-Benz. It's their national distribution headquarters where they bring all their cars in from the port of Long Beach. It's up in Long Beach, and so they wanted a refreshed roof for the new tenant.
Yep.
And so, but a good example, that'll go another 10 or more years and still is not going to be torn off and hauled to the landfill. So,
Yeah, that's huge.
it's got, a great deal of ponding. It's got a lot of issues on it, being very coastal, close to the ocean,
Right.
which is always a pushback in our technologies, which is mostly acrylic surfacings. And that, oh, the acrylics don't work in ponding. They don't. Acrylic will last as long as silicone in a ponding area if it's done right. Oh, and I can hear people out there moaning and groaning right now as we're speaking about it. But if it's done right, which means you put down acrylic, you put a polyester reinforcement in it, then you put more on, you end up, in that case, you end up with about 60 to 70 mils of a reinforced system in those ponding areas that will withstand. We've got roofs that are in the 20 to 30-year range that are take ponding 200 days a year and,
Wow.
and can withstand it. So, or it can peel in the first year if it's not done right.
Right.
It's put down, if it isn't put down in the right weather, or if it's not reinforced or it's too light, it can fail in the first year. So
Yeah.
yes, when we get that pushback and the red flag thrown up, foul. Yep, you're right. It can not perform, but it can perform when it's done right, and all that's part of the specification and the training.
Yeah.
Write good specs. Don't cheapen your specs to sell more product, um, and give your contractors the support and training they need. That's a big part of it. And if you do that, you can go toe to toe with any other technology in the roofing industry. Uh, Another great aspect of it is the ease of getting into the this technology. You don't
Yep.
have to have a fleet of trucks and a crew of 500, 50 guys and that kind of stuff. It's, a crew of three to six guys, a pickup truck and a trailer, and you can go toe to toe with the biggest contractors out there. Now, the big contractors don't love that because some of the small guys can get in business, but some of our most successful people that we've had in the industry, and we've had some very successful people using our systems, um, you know, doing more than 20, $30 million a year in coatings, and started out with a pickup with us and a trailer and a pump and, and 300 feet of hose. So you can get into the industry if you do it right. You can be successful, and you can do anything from mobile homes and trailer parks up to 1 million square foot buildings with it. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that takes us right into the advantages of a fluid applied membrane. And let's talk about those advantages specifically in regard to design and specification. What are some of those, thinking of them as a membrane, how does that, what are the advantages to
right.
design and specification in that regard?
If you don't want to be thought of as a band-aid technology or system or miracle in a bucket or any of the terms that have been used in the coating industry over the years. If
Yeah.
you don't want to be thought of like that, then don't act like that, which means write good specifications. Don't write specifications just to sell product. Well, I know I could get away. They pay this for it if I only put down this amount of gallons or whatever. So write a good specification that has the right type of uh, uh, um, know your area. Obviously, Arizona and some of the dry areas can get away with some lighter specifications than, believe it or not, our coastal Southern California, where we have 100-degree days and wet nights every night.
Yeah.
And I mean every night. So when you have wet roofs every night and 90 to 100-degree days during the day, that is really tough on a roof, on any roof, but
Yep.
especially on coatings. So you're not going to put the lightest, systems in many of these places, or up in Colorado where we do a lot of that. So you have
Yep.
to know your area, write good specifications. You get some testing done, which is what we do. We have many FM 4470 class 1 rated systems. That's kind of the gold standard in the roofing industry. You don't have a single ply membrane or a modified bitumen that can go and say, "Oh, I've got a better rating than that." You don't, because that's kind of the gold standard up there. So, it does cost a little bit of money to do that, but that's what gives architects and consultants a comfort level, and that's needed. If you're out there as a contractor, or you're out there, even as a competitor, and you want to sell, and you have consultants pushing back, and that's because in my earlier years of pushing this stuff and dealing with consultants was, yes, I know this stuff can work in this under certain conditions, and it can work here, but what do I tell my building owner? I don't, it
Right.
just I feel good about it. What they really want is something, as I say, to hang their hat on. Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what? Here's some. It isn't just, we don't just feel good about it. We've got some testing. We've got uh, um, some good data that will help you in your business, which is being a professional consultant, to give a building owner something he needs, uh, um, and have the backup that you need, as opposed to just an opinion.
Yeah.
All of us have opinions, but sometimes you need more than opinions. You need some backup data. So you do that. You uh, again, you deal with contractors that do the right thing. Uh, so many times we have new contractors coming regularly, and we like to get to know all of them. But some of them are looking for an easy way out, just like some coating manufacturers are looking for an easy sale. And it isn't that easy if you're going to go toe to toe with some really big professional manufacturing companies that make single ply membranes, that make modified bitumens, that make all these. Those people are doing their homework. We need to do ours. So,
Yeah.
and we think we do that.
And on that note, I mean, does how do fluid applied systems compare, or yeah, compare to traditional single ply systems?
Well, it again, we as a company have done maybe some, I'm not going to say more extreme, but our systems, we regularly do 3-ply reinforced systems. When I say plies, I'm talking about the reinforcement. I use some traditional roofing technology. Sometimes I'll see a specification written that comes in from a consultant or somewhere else, and it'll be a 7-ply coating roof. And all it is they're talking about every application is a ply. Well, in roofing, traditionally a ply is a reinforcement.
Yep.
You got single ply membrane. I got a 3-ply built up roof, a base with an inner ply and a cap sheet. That's three
Yeah.
plies. That's your reinforcements, and that's the way we look at it.
Okay.
We have many, many roofs, and I mean millions of feet that go down with not 1-ply of polyester reinforcement plastic, not just 2 plies, but 3 plies.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 2 plies in asphalt emulsion and 1-ply in acrylic. There can be different ways, and all those have coatings or fluid
Yeah.
systems in between the plies and that. So you can build systems into a strong enough membrane that you can go against the traditional types of roofing that are out there, and take on whatever climate you're in, or whatever, you've got ponding, you've got dead flat roofs, you've got you can build it into that, and you can still do it economically. Coatings have always been, 20 to 25% the cost of a re-roof. Well, that's when it was just a coating. We're not that anymore. We're maybe 50% or 60% of a complete re-roof, because again, a big part of a re-roof is the tear off. It's a big labor challenge. There's a lot of
Yep.
labor involved in
Yep.
a lot of parts of roofing, not as much in single ply, but when you're tearing off in that, you're using a lot of people. Um, uh, this is much more focused with fewer people. Pumps and and spray bars take the place of labor in some of this, and that's can be the beauty of it. You can, with a 5-person roofing company, you can do a lot of fluid applied roofing. And you don't have, and labor is a big part of the challenge in our roofing industry.
Yeah.
That's
As
something the
we all know.
NRCA fights regularly. All the people in the industry, if I get it regularly. Hey, if I had another crew, I would be out. I'd double my production out there. There's still lots of risks to do out
Yeah.
there. Getting crews. So, instead of having 10 guys on a tear off and a re-roof, or 12, those 10 guys could be doing 2 complete crews on a coating renovation system.
Yeah.
So,
So, Greg, how would you compare fluid applied with single ply when it comes to foot traffic on the roof?
well, there's, one of the things that I like about liquid and fluid applied systems is that they're 100% attached to the roof they're going over.
Yeah.
And in today's world of solar, uh, which really increases the foot traffic, uh, or any of the industrial buildings that might have a lot of foot traffic. You can address it with walkways, and we have the walkway coating and a coating reinforced system for walkways, but you can put walkway pads, you can do a lot of those things. But a fully reinforced system is pretty tough. I mean, there's also technologies out there like urethanes that are tough, very tough on their own right. They hold up really well to foot traffic. They make walking decks out of urethanes. But there's also economic challenges to all of these things. But a coating system that's reinforced can hold up very well. But if you know it's going to have foot traffic, you're not going to put the lightest weight system you have out there. You're going to
Right.
maybe put one that's a little tougher. And the difference is in being 100% attached to a sometimes single ply challenges they have on solar roofs, and that when they get back up there to work on solar or install solar, and you put a razor knife cut in it, or one of the screws pokes through it, it pokes through a membrane that is in most cases floating on top of a substrate, whether it's the deck
Right.
or an old existing roof on there. Once water finds its way through that, it can now travel the entire sub area underneath that single ply memory to find
Yep.
the old leaks and what have you, and you don't really know where they're coming from. With a fluid applied system, you're attached directly to it. So usually where your leaks are is exactly where there's a leak, if there happens to be one from damage or
Yep.
trades being up there, HVAC, solar, and we're getting more and more solar. We believe strongly in reinforcing the surface reflective coating for solar to make it withstand the abuses that it has. And we tested at FM for the for the large hail impact, and we get pushback all the time out here. Oh, we don't have hail in California. Every once in a while they have a freak storm in Arizona, but we don't. That's not a problem. I says, no, we don't have hail. It's really impact resistance. It's not really
Yeah.
hail. And we get screw guns,
Hmm.
toolboxes, and hammers all the time
Hmm.
dropped on roofs. That's still impact. And you
Yep.
want to have that impact resistance if you can, especially, as I say, in today's solar world where you never know when they're going to throw a solar assembly up on top of
Yep.
your roof membrane. And you don't necessarily want to, void your warranty on your roof just because they're putting solar on. You don't want to discourage them, but what you want to do is you want to participate with them and help them reinforce that membrane that you put on, that so it can withstand a solar system that's going to be put on there. So
Yeah. And kind of going off of that, when you were talking about waterproofing and weatherproofing, how does this seamless nature of these systems impact waterproofing performance, even when, that nick, that damage happens? You mentioned you can find it easier. Can you go
Right.
more on that?
Because it's usually localized to the spot where it's at. It isn't traveling around
Exactly.
underneath a loose membrane. So
Hmm.
it's easier, it's easy to find and it's easy to repair. Most systems are repaired with like products.
Okay.
Some systems are a little tougher. We're getting a lot of the silicones out there right now. We have a silicone. We don't advertise it very much. We do it by invite only because we think it's way over marketed. Put in places and it can be tough to repair. Supposedly silicone can repair silicone if it's done right, but that isn't always the case. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
tough one up there. But for the most part, acrylic systems, urethanes, those types of coatings are easily repaired with like materials, and they're often easily repaired with some building owners have their own maintenance crews. It doesn't
Yep.
take we give training to maintenance crews for companies that have multiple buildings and they want a couple of their people to be trained on how to address when they have to put a new pipe through or put an antenna on a roof, how to address it. These seamless systems are, you can easily see a breach in it. You don't have to be, it can be tough with a seamed membrane to find. I see consultants all the time that have their tricks. They're up there with squirt bottles running along the seams, and when I squirt this, I can see if there's a void in the seam, and that's where water's coming through and all that. There's all kinds of tricks to find leaks in seamed type membranes where they're pretty obvious in a coating system.
Right. Well, and then I mean, that kind of goes along with adding a service and maintenance program to your company and having those, 5, 10 year checkups with your customers, and being able to kind of get that maintenance for the customer down the road.
It is key. And for the money that they can save over a complete tear off and re-roof,
Yeah.
they can add a maintenance yearly. It's good to have a yearly maintenance, but for sure every 2 to 3 years that will catch any problems before they become problems. Because all roofs, need maintenance, whether it's coating or a fluid applied system or a built-up roof. They don't often get it, but they all should have it, and
Yep.
it should be part of a package. That's something we push real hard with our contractors. We know it saves us money, because we very seldom leave a building owner high and dry because they didn't do everything exactly right. But if they've done things right, they do a maintenance program and they take some of the money they save on a contract for a roof coating fluid applied maintenance system and put it into a regular yearly maintenance. They can make their buildings last an amazing amount of years. So it is key to do it. It is not a put it on there. Here's the 10 or 20 year warranty, and I'll see you in 20 years.
Yep.
That's they don't do that. Again, they don't do that for their walls. They don't do it for their floors. They don't do it for their sidewalks out front. They don't do
Hmm.
it for their landscaping. They don't even do it for their windows.
Yeah.
Everything gets looked at and taken care of except their roof. It's out of sight and out of mind, and it's
Yep.
the one thing in their building that should get the most attention. And easily kept up in good condition with a little bit of maintenance. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So I know we've touched on them a bunch, but what are some of those other common misconceptions contractors may still have about fluid applied systems?
well, again, it started off with it, but it's they've always been considered as a fallback. If I can't do something else and you don't have the money, I can roll some coating on as a
Right.
maintenance coating. Or it is oversold as, hey, this we can put some, and we'll get this consistently right now. It's one of the biggest problems we have in our main system is guys going around in pickups with buckets of silicone in their back telling building owners, oh no, you got ponding here, I'll roll some silicone in the ponding area, you don't have to worry about it. Well, they're partially right. in that the silicone will hold up itself in ponding, but so will a sheet of stainless steel. It doesn't make the roof resistant to the ponding. That roof will still rot out from underneath it if it isn't primed with a vapor barrier. So don't if they're sometimes oversold, coatings are oversold as to their abilities. It may be just a reflective maintenance coating to cool down a roof. That's fine if that's the way it's sold. But and so that's where some of the misconceptions come, is that, this stops all, this is a miracle in a bucket. This is, or it's a Band-Aid, or it's only going to get me by. And in many cases, that's correct. But if it's sold properly, if it is specified properly, and you put it on and have some trained applicators, it can go again toe to toe with every membrane out there. Uh,
Yep. Which
so
is really exciting.
yeah, yeah, and we have a lot of enlightened building owners. Those are the ones that drive the market. 20 years ago, it was an uphill battle with every roof consultant to get them to use your coating system or fluid applied system, ours specifically, I say, in place of, oh no, they're fine, but for where they're used, but we're talking about a real roof here, guys, and that we
Yeah.
need a real roof. And that was an uphill battle until some building owners, till people like myself or some of my salespeople or whatever got in with the building owner, sold them on what we believe is a good concept for their roof. And then that building owner goes to his consultant, who he's used for years, and says, I really like this system. And the consultant says, well, we don't really believe in him. And he says, okay, so you don't want to be my consultant on this job. Is that what you're telling me? And now all of a sudden that consultant has to make a choice. Well, I don't want to lose this building owner. I've done work with him on other buildings here. So, okay, he wants to use it all. And that started us, that got us in the door of multiple consulting firms that then said,
Yeah.
this isn't so bad. Or, you know what, it can be done in the right way and it can be used. I'm not saying it's going to take over replace everything, but it's a step up into the real world of roof membranes, as opposed to that stepchild part of the industry that we've been in. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we have a question here, Greg. Um, what is your opinion on non-permeable coatings versus permeable coatings?
permeable,
Permeable. Yep.
yeah, yeah. Well, it depends on uh, most of the coatings we use, even though they're very watertight. There's permeable and then there's watertight, and those are two different meanings. Permeable may mean vapor. For instance, silicone is a highly permeable coating, very resistant to water, ponding water. It's an amazing technology that can sit out in the sun and in the rain and in the snow for 20 plus years and not degrade.
Yeah.
But is it permeable? Yeah, it's very permeable. It'll allow a great deal of water transmission through it, and it can make the deck. So there's that kind of permeability. And then there's also the kind of permeability where we actually like it. We want some of that vapor to come out from underneath the roof. When we do our maintenance systems over sprayed polyurethane foam, SPF that is aged can be a problem. It can soak in moisture. It can have all kinds of problems. And if you put a non-permeable coating over that, you're going to put blisters everywhere. You're going to lock in water and moisture, and it's going to blister. Acrylics work great because they have some permeability. They're not zero. They will allow some vapor transmission through them. They don't allow water in as a leak, but they allow vapor
Right.
out, and that works good on roofs that have a little bit of moisture in them.
Mm.
You've got some areas where you want non-permeable coating, where you get some of the urethane coatings and that are very non-permeable, and you're going to have a good dry deck. You want to have a good dry substrate. You don't want it, otherwise you can cause blisters. But you know they're very high performing in wet, cold climates, those type of things where you can get more
Yeah.
moisture drive through them. But out here in the West, where most of our work is, and through the South, somewhat permeability. Even our asphalt emulsions, which are kind of considered a waterproof, we line lakes and water tanks, with asphalt emulsion. They take it takes water 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. But it's still slightly permeable in that it will allow some vapor transmission. So depends on what level you're talking about. And I'm not a scientist to know to give you any measurements or anything like that, but most of the stuff we deal with has some permeability, but not water transmission. So
Got it. Got it. I hope that answered our anonymous question asker. I hope that answered your question, and I'm sure it did. So moving on a little bit and pivoting the conversation, how can manufacturers support contractors in adopting this membrane mindset moving forward?
well, for a sales point of view, if you're talking about marketing it, one of the suggestions we've often given to some of our contractors that bid or quote jobs regularly, there may be a building out there that is asking for a price on modified bitumen or a single ply overlay or something else. And we recommend that if you're talking about from the marketing side, that you throw in an unsolicited quote for a good fluid applied system. And you 80% of the time, 90% of the time, you may be shot down. Hey, we didn't ask for that. We asked for a
Yeah.
price on this modified bitumen, or we asked for a price. But all it takes is 15, 10, 5% of the time when we're a building owner or a property manager looks at it and says, well, what's this that's 60% less or 40% less or 30%
Yeah.
less? What does this mean? And all of a sudden that door is now open. They've opened the crack in that door, and now you can step up and say, well, here's how this works. We're not going to have to do this and this that we do with a full membrane. We can do right over the roof you have. The roof you have has some good slope. It has a few bad areas, but for the most part, it's a great candidate to go over. And it's going to cost you less. Well, yeah, but how long is it going to last? 5 years? No, we can get you a warranty that's going to be equal to, with the right specification, the other system. So in the marketing side, that's one of the ways. To think about it is
Yeah.
offer unsolicited quotes for these systems and see the reaction that you get from some of the owners. Again,
Totally.
you'll get some that'll say, "Hey, I didn't ask for that.
Yeah.
What the hell's this?" But all it takes is one or two or three out of 10, and it pays off. But so that's a big part of it, is knowing your audience and when and where to approach them with these. And then the other is giving them the systems they need to go over, because they're going to go over a lot of different membranes. We've tested our systems at Factory Mutual over TPO, EPDM, PVC, modified bitumen, smooth and granulated buildup, and gravel. We have FMs for all those systems. And so, and not everyone's the same. They don't all do the same thing over the same substrates. You may need a special primer. You may need to use one form of a coating as opposed to another. We have several acrylic technologies that we use. So know what you're going over and have the right system so that your contractor isn't trying to just sell a one size fits all. I've got so and so's coating and I'm putting it on everything. So help
Yeah.
your contractor to not oversell it and have the right tools that he needs to sell it. So
Yeah, having those trainings on the roof, and I love that you all are working with NRCA because they have pro certification program. As far as I know, coatings fluid applied isn't a part of that yet, you,
yes,
but you're looking to get it
yeah.
involved.
Through their RCMA, we're looking at that, and more locally, uh, um, Vicky Sharples, from the
Hi, Vicky.
coffee shop. She's part of executive director of the SoCal RCA, and they have teamed with the NRCA and the contractor training and what have you, and we participate with her in helping in the coding side. And generically, believe me, we like to go out and sell Western Colloid. That's my job, and that's my company's job. But we're just as happy to go out and sell the technology that to the greater
Yeah.
roofing marketplace. We know if it's done right, because that's always been an issue. When the first reflective coatings became mandated in California back in 2003, 2004, 2005, and they started before they put it into the energy law. They were giving rebates. It was the second gold rush. Everybody that made a white coating in a bucket was in California,
Yep.
and you could buy dozens of them. They were everywhere because they were putting these reflective coatings on out here. But the issue was some of them performed, some of them didn't. Some of them had just some independent sales rep that some guy from the East Coast hired on the West Coast, didn't know anything about it. And so part of my point is that, be representative, you be a good representative of your industry. So we had a lot of black eyes from that. A lot of,
Yeah.
oh, I tried that, didn't work. And, we go in and say, look, we're not only, we try to be good industry. We participate in the RCMA. We support them in general, not in specifics of what we do, but in general. And because it's better, if it's better for the industry and we raise the industry up, all of us have a better view from building owners, property managers, and consultants. And
Absolutely.
so, we think that's important. I don't just do these talks just to sell my company. I think,
Yeah.
I hope it helps other coding companies, do a good job and gain the respect they deserve in the industry.
Yeah.
So, it's important to represent. And so anyway, we're hoping to get more of a play in the NRCA. But remember, the NRCA is, for many, many, many years, for its good and it's bad. It was dominated by the East Coast technology, which is not as coating centric as the West is, where it's drier,
Right.
cooler, and all that. So it is not. It doesn't have the impetus yet that it will have as coating systems can be adapted to different weather climates and different ways of applicating. Climate is not always an end of a coating or a negative to a coating system. Ours are water based. Our original founder started in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
It was only in Oregon and Washington, the two wettest states in the Union, maybe,
Yeah.
and did a fantastic job, developed systems there, but he knew how and when to put them on. So it will spread. But as I started to say, the NRCA has been historically dominated by the Midwest, East Coast, where coatings have not been as dominant. So it takes time for them to adapt and to incorporate what I think is a legitimate mainstream technology in the roofing industry into that. So we're always working on that.
Yeah. So my next question kind of rolls into a comment that we got in the chat, which is years ago I went to a job and the coating film was perfect, but it was adhered to a layer of dirt on the roof. So what role does maintenance and prep play in maximizing that system performance?
Why you're you're so right, and we see that the same thing. And it's a drawback in any roofing. Once you get finished with a roof and everything's seamed up, if it's single ply, if it's coating, it looks beautiful. There's a picture on the screen if you're looking at it. That
Beautiful.
roof that roof could be laid over dirt and it's not going to last. And the problem is once you get through, a coating that's put on right can the surface coating can hide a multitude of imperfections. And so that's where training and adhering to specifications comes in. Sometimes it's by inspections. You might have inspectors on a job, but you can't be there every day all the time. So then you got to have a trusted contractor that knows what and how to do it. So it is, if you're going to put a coating, a fluid applied system on, the roof's got to be clean if you're directly adhering to it. If it's something that is not, doesn't have a natural affinity to adhere to, you might need a primer as an interplay. But non-cleaned roofs have been, we've gone to low areas where they're peeling and that, and we pick them up and there's dirt stuck on the back of them. We said, oh, that must have been my new crew was out here. They didn't know what they were doing or something.
Yeah.
And that can happen. It can happen with any industry. We have voids in hot mopped roofs. You can have areas where torched on roofs were never heated enough, so they didn't adhere. So you can have all of those imperfections. It's in the training and the qualification of the crews that they're doing the right thing, but they have to be cleaned. You're right. It's and it's a shame when you find those things, but
Yeah.
that's the labor side of it. That's where I say we only make 50% of this membrane. As I shake my contractor's hand, you're 50% manufacturer. You're not just a contractor now, you're a manufacturer. You're in the manufacturing business. You're our
Yeah.
you're our manufacturing arm out there on the roof. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. So, speaking of that, how should contractors communicate the value of fluid applied membranes to their building owners, in kind of save face if they've had a bad experience, like what George said in the
right.
chat?
Well, we do it in multiple ways. We say, hey, look, we're your neighbor. We've got a manufacturing plant in Texas and Northern California, Southern California, distribution spots in other areas. And I say, we're your neighbor. So we're not running and hiding from you. We're not a rep that is there and going away. So we're here. We take calls. If that contractor goes out of business, we're still taking calls. So we want them to have some comfort level that we're here to stay. We've been around 50 plus years. We're privately held. We plan on staying privately held. And so we're responsible to the building owner ultimately. But for the contractor, look, we know that this is an easy technology to abuse, and it has been abused over the years.
Yeah.
But what I encourage contractors to do is, I'll get calls all the time. Hey, can you give me another contractor? I want to have a competitive bid. I want to have another competitive bid. And we get building owners, all they want to do is get a cheaper bid. What I tell them, what you should be doing is doing your due diligence, get some references from your contractor. If you got a good contractor that has good customers, that is his part of the package to give that, listen, Mr. Building Owner, we use this product. We know it can be very successful. We're not going to have to tear off your roof and expose it to weather. And we know it can do a good job for you. And here's the name of 3 or 4 or 5 other people that I do work for. And let them tell you how I do it. Let
Yeah.
them tell you our responsibility. We can do the same as from the manufacturing side for building owners too. So, but that's, sometimes you have to get that faith back if they've been burned.
Yep.
And everybody's been burned somewhere. You know, um, the at one time steel belted radial tires were the most failed part of the automotive industry. There was several $100 million in lawsuits back when steel belted radials came in, but all of us are using them today. We didn't quit using them because they failed early on. Technology increased and manufacturing processes improve and all that. So
Yeah.
and we tend to help contractors when they get that pushback, giving them the comfort level they need. That's what my salespeople do in support of the roofing contractor. We can get them on jobs. We can get them on a job that's a 5-year-old. We can get them on a job that's a 10-year-old. I can take them to a 20-year-old job in their area often, depending on where they're at. But, so we can help with that. And I think other probably manufacturers can do the same.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we have a really good question here from the audience. Do you consider your edge-to-edge reinforced assemblies to be one of two roof coverings allowed by code? Since they come with a weather-tight warranty, I believe that is how the new codes are leaning. Selling your robust assemblies as a roof covering and not a coating might give the system more legitimacy.
Well, that's true. It is um, it's a double-edged sword for us because we like being a maintenance system, and it's very lightweight. We're talking about, you know, usually, depending on what they're doing, they're often clean off more weight in granules for sure in gravel, and that then the weight they put back on with a dried, cured coating system. So weight wise, it's very lightweight. So it's not taking the place of a new membrane.
Yeah,
If it's depending on the type of membrane, but usually if it's single ply, they're adding a cover board or something else, so there's more weight being put on. But yes, we like to be considered. Uh, Code is going to be changing here. A lot of cities don't care that it's a fluid applied system that has a maintenance rating by UL and FM. They still consider it a new membrane. And you know what? You can only fight that battle so tough. We like it to be considered a non-full membrane from the code side because it helps us sell them in the marketplace out there. It helps us, that was one of the drawbacks of doing this uh, um, talk I'm doing right now. Is like,
yeah,
do you really want to throw it out there and then have all the other, new construction and re-roof membranes push back against us? Hey, look, they're claiming as a full membrane. Why are they getting away with not having to tear off? Why are they getting away with not having to insulate? But the reality is there is a place to do a maintenance system that has the life expectancy and longevity of a complete new membrane and have the other benefits that people are looking for. No tear off, no landfill, reuse of what's in place, with lead. You can get a certain amount of lead points by reusing what's there instead of not reusing it. So we want to fill those holes too. So you can't be everything to everybody. We do the best
right.
we can. We like to be considered a full membrane. And as I say, many cities local are saying, nope, it's a new membrane. So we've always gone on over two roofs. For years, we got away with, there's already two roofs on, we can put yours on too. Uh, Not as much anymore. With one, usually we don't have a big problem. With two roofs, there are some places they will. We still find some cities that don't even require a permit for a re-roof. I mean, they're really in the dark ages, um,
Yeah.
but so that it's a double-edged sword. If you push too hard
Yep.
one way, you lose it on the other end, which is, hey, we can go in more places than other guys can't fit.
Right.
So
Right.
we'd like to be all things to all people, but you can't. But we do consider it's an edge-to-edge membrane. There's no questioning that. It depends on how you do it. We upsell it to a building owner, and so for all of you people out there in the specification world, put your earmuffs on. We upsell it to a building owner. Look, this is what you're getting. You're getting a warranty that's equal. You're getting a roof with longevity, performance, all the things you want, but you're not having to tear off. We downsell it to the permitting and code people. Look, this is a coating. We're bridging lots of cracks. We want we're going over some voids. We're going over a lot of things. So we're putting a lightweight reinforcement in it. Uh,
Yep.
it's still a coating. The fact is, we're building them. I know we're building a membrane out of the coating. So we sometimes we talk out of both sides of our mouth. We upsell it to one and downsell it to the other. But reality is it's somewhere in the middle there, and it's
Yep.
it's going to find its own place. Whether we start advertising it as I'm doing it now, and others do, it's going to be start looked at, and that's where we hope the RCMA and some of them will fight our battle to keep us in a good place, providing the needs that are out there. for the
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
better of building owners and that. Not, we don't want to take the place of all roofing. That's not the point. But we have a place in roofing, and in order to do that, we need to keep our classifications, our maintenance, we in the code standards and that. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Greg, I mean, we've reached the top of the hour, so thank you so much for all of your wisdom today. The chat was going gangbusters. Thank you everyone for just commenting and having great conversation in the chat. So well done on that. We had really great questions, so I'm going to skip that. Thank you so much, Greg. Thank you, Western Colloid, for sponsoring this and bringing this conversation to the forefront of the industry. It's so important. Everyone can go to the Western Colloid directory on coatingscoffeeshop.com to learn more about their products and what they offer. And you can also just go to coatingscoffeeshop.com to see other Coatings Talks and RLWs, webinars, podcasts, articles that we bring to the forefront of the industry every day. And thank you, Greg. That's well done. This was fabulous.
great, thank you, appreciate it, appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. This will be on demand and available on coatingscoffeeshop.com within 24 hours. So definitely send it out to colleagues and coworkers, and we'll see you next month on the next Coatings Cast. All right. Thanks, everyone.